Hi everyone and welcome to Flipping Heck Business, Flipped Learning for AQA A-Level Business Studies. Now, we are looking at Unit 3, which is Decision Making to Improve Marketing Performance. This is video number 5, where we're going to cover PED and YED. So video content is, what is price and income elasticity of demand? So what determines price elasticity? Value of understanding elasticity to decision makers, and then finally classifying and interpreting price elasticity. So what it links to. Now this is actually one of the more important subjects that you need to know. Now this links to an awful lot of your high level questions. Anything to do with demand, anything to do with price, anything to do with income can actually be tied back or linked to price elasticity and income elasticity. So specifically what we're looking at is branding and brand loyalty. So pricing strategies and tactics, these are both marketing. Then we've got sales forecasting, so there's your finance. Then product differentiation, so there's operations. Market positioning, again a little bit of marketing for you. And then product lifecycle, which is also marketing, which we're going to be looking at soon. So what is elasticity? So elasticity basically measures the likely change in demand for a product or service in response to changes in a variable, such as income or price. Now, there are a couple more that you can look at, but for AQA A-Level Business, you only need to know about income and price. Right? Now, basically, we're looking at how sensitive a product is to changes in income or changes in price and how that affects its demand. So price elasticity of demand is basically measuring how a change in price affects the change of demand for a good or a service. So if I put the price up, then is the demand going to go down? Well, yes, it will. It will always go down. But by how much is a variable that we need to look at. So here's the formula for it. Now, you don't need to know the formula off by heart. You don't need to replicate this, but it is handy to know. It deepens the level of understanding. So PED, price elasticity of demand, is the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the change in price. So percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. Always demand divided by price. And the way that we work out percentage change, and this is across the board, it's not just for PED, it's for any kind of percentage change, is new figure divided by, new figure minus old figure divided by old figure times 100. So if you were looking at market growth or market share or anything like that, then you would look at, say, 2018's market share figure. You would take away 2017's market share, and there you've got the difference between the two. And then you would just divide by 2017's figure, and that would give you the, and then times by 100, and that would give you the percentage change in market share from one to the next. So it's the same when we're looking at the percentage change in quantity demanded for PED as well. So you don't need to know this, but that bottom one you really should know, because that is pretty much a third of the maths in business that you will be using. Right, so price elasticity of demand. So we've already said that it's percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in price. So here's an example. So if Apple cut the price of the iPhone by 10%, but demand only increased by 5%, would this actually have been a good decision? Right, so PED, 5% divided by 10% equals minus 0.5%. Right? So for every 1% change in price, the demand changes by 0.5, but in the opposite direction. So as price rises, the demand falls by a smaller amount. Therefore, this is what we would call inelastic. Right? So whenever PED is less than the fall, so if your price change, your demand change is less than the price change, then we are inelastic. Right, so what does that minus 0.5 actually mean? Well, when we're trying to interpret like what PED actually is, we're always looking at how it compares to 1. So if PED is less than 1, it is what we would call price inelastic. So in other words, the change in quantity demanded is less than the percentage change in price. So if we were to increase the price by 20% and our demand only fell by 5%, then we would say that it is inelastic. So it is not sensitive to price changes. Like, you're not going to lose loads of customers. You will always lose some. People can't afford some goods, but you won't lose a lot of customers if you put your price up. But then, if the price is PED is greater than 1, then we would say that it is elastic. So in other words, the change in quantity demanded is more than the percentage change in price. So if I put my price up by 5% and I lose 20% of my business, then we can say that actually the product is very sensitive to price changes. Now, rarely you will get a PED equal to 1, which is basically unitary elastic. So changing quantity, changing quantity demanded is exactly equal to the percentage change in price. Now, it's very rare that you'll find a product like that. So the higher the PED, the more consumers care about the change in price. That's the simple way of putting it. The higher the PED, the more people care about how much it actually costs. So why does it actually matter? So if PED is greater than 1, so price elastic, then we know that a change in price will cause a larger change in demand. So that means that overall revenues would increase with a price cut. So we would actually get a lot more money coming in with the price cut, but overall revenues would fall with a price increase. So if we put our prices up, we will end up actually losing revenue. So it's not going to be worth it. Even if we put the price up, we'll lose more customers than we would currently have. And the opposite is the case if your PED is less than 1, so your price inelastic. So think products like holidays would be elastic, because if they put the prices up and up and up, people can't afford it, they stop buying it. Whereas if you put the price up of milk, it is a necessity, or petrol, it is a necessity, you will carry on buying it. Even if you put the price up 20 or 30p on a litre of petrol, people still need to buy it. Now, people will in the long term look for a different method of transport, but it is price inelastic. You are going to see an increase in your revenue. So why it's really important. So things like marketing. So you need to know for planning purposes what will happen if you put any change into price. Branding. So businesses try to make the demand for the products more price inelastic through advertising, branding, getting customer loyalty in an attempt to allow people to actually realize that there isn't a substitute. So think Apple. People don't see there being a substitute when in reality there's quite a lot out there, but they will stick to the product even when they keep putting the price up. So the Apple iPhone X was £1,200 when it first came out. People were still buying it. Total revenue. So changing price can affect your total revenue depending on whether the price is elastic or inelastic. So guys, you need to be able to predict what will happen if that changes. And then profit. So profit is linked to revenue. So any changes that need to be monitored need to ensure profit is maintained. So if you have a PED which equals inelastic, to a rise in the price could lead to higher sales, but lower sales mean lower costs. So profits can increase not just from sales, but also from lowering those costs as well. Whereas if you're elastic, an increase in the sales can also come from a decrease in price, but higher sales means you are creating more product, which means higher costs, so your variable costs will go up. So profits can only increase if the sales revenue increases more than the increased costs. So in other words, if I was making footballs and they are price elastic, well, if I put the price up, then in theory, if I increase if I put the price down, in theory I will be selling more. Well, that's great, but I'm going to have to buy more leather, more thread, more plastic, more packaging for those products, for those footballs, because otherwise I'm not going to, which means that my unit cost, my variable cost will actually increase. But my revenue, well, it may increase with the sales going up, but will my actual profit? Probably not. So factors that influence it, things like brand strength. So like I said with Apple, so products with strong brand loyalty and reputation tend to be price inelastic. People will carry on buying them. Right? Necessity. The more necessary, or the more you imagine a product to be necessary, the more the demand trends to be inelastic. So think milk, think postage stamps. Yeah, you can send parcels and everything, but you still need to get those stamps in it for it. Habit. So products that are demanded to be demanded and consumed as a matter of habit. So think cigarettes, think tobacco, think some forms of alcohol. Availability of substitutes. So is there a lot of competition, or is there an alternative that you could buy instead? So if you've got donuts, then what you could do is you could have cake instead. You could have chocolate bar instead. And then time as well. Time, this is a big factor. So in the short run, price changes tend to have less impact on demand than those over longer periods. So if you put your prices up now, then I would probably not buy a holiday, but I might be able to save for it, or I'll wait for the price to drop. And then once the price drops, I will jump on board and I will change it to elasticity by buying the product. So we've done price and now income. So income elasticity of demand measures the extent to which the quantity of a product demanded is affected by a change in income. So that's the customer's income. So again, it's got its own formula. So we've got the income elasticity of demand, which is usually shortened to YED, is calculated as percentage change in quantity demanded, just like PED, divided by the percentage change in income. So it's not difficult. You just swap out the percentage change for price with income. So income elasticity of demand. Now the way that we actually write this is YED. So responsiveness of demand to changes in income. So YED equals percentage delta quantity demanded, which is percentage change in quantity demanded, divided by percentage change in income. Now we look at two things here. So is the good going to be a normal or luxury good, which is the demand rises as income rises. Right? So the more your income goes up, then the more product you will buy. Or is it an inferior good? So demand falls as income rises. So the better income you get, the less of a product that you buy, and vice versa. So if your income falls, you'll buy more of it. So a positive sign denotes a normal or luxury good. So if it is +1, +8, etc., or even +0.2, 0.3, then it is a normal luxury good. If it is a negative sign, so -0.1, -0.2, -0.3, -8, then it is an inferior good. So, for example, a rise in income of 3% would lead to demand falling by 1.8%. So we work out the YED, which equals 0.6. So therefore, this good is an inferior good because it's minus, but it is inelastic because it is less than 1. So do you see how they tie in? So if it's less than 1, it's still going to be inelastic, but inferior because it is a -6.6. And then vice versa. So a rise in incomes of 3% with YED value of -2.1 would lead to a fall in demand. So we've got so our YED is now 6.3%. So the good is a normal good, and it is elastic because it is over 1. So it's positive and it's over 1. So luxuries and necessities. So income elasticity more than 1 is a luxury or normal good. As income grows, proportionately, more is spent on luxuries. So you'll take better holidays, you'll buy branded goods, you'll buy like more consumer goods. And then we've got necessities, so inferior goods, which income elasticity is less than 1, but more than 0. As income grows, proportionately less is spent on necessities. So like staple groceries like milk, own label goods. These are goods that you won't like necessarily need to buy because you might be out all the time. You might be going to restaurants. You might buy luxury foods. So when you put it together and actually look at it, then you might get something like this in an exam where it'll say product A and B, and then it'll give your price elasticity and income elasticity. And you need to kind of combine them and say, well, what is this product, or what kind of product is this? So if we look at the PED, it is minus 1.5, meaning it is price elastic, which means that it is sensitive to changes in price. And then we look at the YED, is plus 0.5. So the plus means that it is a normal good, right? Or like potentially a luxury good, but it's quite low. So we'd probably say it's a normal good. And it is income inelastic. So in other words, if your income changes up or down, you are still likely to buy it. Then we look at product B, minus 0.2 for PED, so it means that it is price inelastic. So if you change the price on it, people will still probably buy it, right? But the income elasticity, it is income elastic. So plus meaning that it is a luxury or a normal good. In this case, it's quite high, so we'd probably say it's a luxury, right? And it is elastic, meaning that it is sensitive to the change of incomes. So perhaps this is a branded good, like clothing or beans or soup or anything like that. So limitations of calculating and using elasticities. So sometimes it can be quite difficult to actually get reliable data because you've got to like kind of pull everything together from like different areas, not just your own, but like you might be relying on like other companies as well. So then there are other factors that also affect demand. So I mean like tastes, fashions, like what's going on in the economy. So think anything like regarding pestle. Many markets are subject to rapid technological change, which means that previous data might not be reliable. So if the change in cars, change in computer systems or components might actually affect that demand and mean that, well, you're not comparing the two things correctly. And then competitors will react. So pricing decisions can't be taken in isolation. If you put your prices down, your competitor will probably react the same, and then you can end up in a price war. So when we're looking at this, remember this rule. So if demand is price elastic, increasing price would reduce total revenue, and reducing price would increase total revenue. If demand is price inelastic, then increasing price would increase revenue, reducing price would decrease total revenue. Right, thanks very much, folks. I know this is quite a long video, but make sure that you give us a thumbs up and you subscribe as well. Video 6 will be coming shortly. And please, please, please remember that this is a very, very important part of your A-level. You need to understand what price elasticity and income elasticity actually are. They will pop up in so many of your 25 mark answers. All right, thanks very much, folks. Have a good weekend.